It's Friday, October 18, 2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 News. Good evening and thanks for joining us. My name is Samuel Sutnandan, coming to you live from Georgetown, Guyana. Here are the major headlines for today. The Citizenship Initiative vows not to coalesce with major parties. Over 95 students and educators rewarded for excellence in education. Former Army Chief says GDF PNCR did not get solid information on Roger Khan. Tolo to put US $80 million towards its offshore drilling operation, and GCCI launched its agro-processor improvement training targeting SMEs. Over to you, Whitney.
Thank you, Samuel. Good evening. Passengers grounded at St. Kitts International Airport for hours in regional news. Trinidad police issues wanted bulletin for murder accused. Mexico's president defends arrest of El Chapo's son. Canadian Prime Minister faces a shaky poll amid Monday's election. And an Afghan mosque bombing killed 62 Islamic believers. These stories and more in a short while. Here's Kingsley Brown with headlines for today in sport news.
Thanks, Whitney. Here's a look at some of the stories we'll be covering in tonight's Sportscast. GCC dominates defending champs at Hockey Championship. And the second Gael Tradewind Tankers school football tournament has been officially launched. And internationally, El Clasico postponed due to ongoing Catalan protests. Samuel, over to you.
Thanks, Kingsley. And now for a look at the news. 29-year-old Dwayne Tappan continued to maintain his innocence after he was found guilty of beheading his uncle on August 6, 2017 at Better Hope South, East Coast, Demerara. The guilty verdict was delivered by a 12-member mixed jury before Justice Sandil Kasoon at the Demerara High Court. On the day of the incident, it was reported that 51-year-old Randolph Senot and the accused had a dispute over a plot of land. Both of the men resided in the same apartment building. At around 4 hours 30, residents in the area heard arguing in one of the apartments, following a loud commotion and then silence. The police were contacted, and when they ventured to the scene, they found Senot's head lying in the kitchen while his body was in the bedroom. The suspected murder weapon was, however, not recovered. The accused later turned himself in. The matter was adjourned until November 14, 2019 for probation report and sentencing. Meanwhile, Guyana's newest political party, the Citizenship Initiative, at its official launching ceremony last evening, has pledged to strive for constitutional reform and never to join any of the major political parties. Shakima Day was there and filed this report.
Tired by the broken promises being given by the current major players in Guyana's political scene has led to the emergence of a new political party. The Citizenship Initiative, TCI, comprises a group of friends, some with no political background and others who were associated but decided to part ways because of their unethical practices. At the party's launching held at the Herdsmanston Lodge on Thursday evening, the event was well attended by Guyanese who were eager to hear what changes they proposed for a new Guyana. The question was asked by attendees in the audience whether or not the party has plans to join the big league parties, a trend currently common with such small parties. Executive member of TCI, Ruel Johnson, said the party has no plans to do such, but only to push for constitutional reform.
So I answer two questions. All our goal is to end up in Parliament. As the key platform has to do with leverage in Parliament. Now, answer the question of coalition. Let me say very explicitly now. Our message is that this adversarial politics with two giants continues to be a primary hurdle to development in Ghana. Coalition, either two, is not an option. That doesn't mean you don't intend to go and say this is adversarial and this is we want to cross you down and stuff like that. A shot address, but from a very practical perspective, you can't say that you have the goals that you want to attain, to change the status quo and then join the status quo. It doesn't make sense.
TCI member Shazam Ali, a web developer, stressed that for years, the PPPC and the APNU-AFC have both shared power, but the old-age struggles remain. Meanwhile, Rhonda Ann Lam, a teacher with no political background, said Guyana's deep-seated ethnic insecurities and racially polarized voting patterns caused her to venture into politics.
Guyanese are jaded. They're also very vocal against those who they believe differ from them in ethnicity and political beliefs, and these are often crudely spouted. They have traditionally ingrained voting patterns, and breaking it has never been fully achieved to date. The words of Machiavelli come to mind here. It ought to be remembered that there is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things, because the innovator had for enemy all those who have done well under the old conditions, and lukewarm defenders in those who may do well under the new.
TCI revealed the 6 main pillars their campaign will be focused on: international leadership, social cohesion, security and equality, infrastructure for the future, education and human resource development, economic security, diversification and growth, and finally, participatory citizenship, enhanced governance, and public accountability. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
Thanks, Shakima. Meanwhile, former Chief of Staff of the Ghana Defense Force, retired Rear Admiral Gary Bess, said that the GDF and the People's National Congress Reform, PNCR, did not acquire enough information and evidence to charge convicted drug dealer Shahid Roger Khan with other crimes he may have allegedly committed.
If you recognize a party in opposition would have had primarily anecdotal evidence. The party in opposition didn't have the government apparatus to do investigations, so its information in large part would have been anecdotal. It would have received information from some witnesses who may have came forward and stated things that occurred that they would have witnessed. But in a state, we expect the apparatus to remain intact. So what the party expected when it came into government, that it would therefore find whatever evidence was gathered by the state and the state institutions to deal with the issue of crimes that were perpetrated by Mr. Roger Khan. So for example, the police force, they had almost 9 years before the party came into power since the issue of Mr. Roger Khan. So what happens to that information? That information is gathered by state agencies. I mean, you have the criminal side, you also have the civil side. So from the party's perspective, in opposition, it couldn't do more than observe, receive, and have anecdotal information, but not information that they could have used when they got into office to prosecute, but rely on the state apparatus to have held that information so it can take information and make the best possible case against them.
Asked further whether he came across any potential evidence while at the GDF that could have been used to charge Khan, who was convicted of drug trafficking in the United States, the PNCR executive had this to say.
Correct. The Ghana Defense Force did play a role, as opposed to the Army. The Ghana Defense Force did play a role in the joint services operation, because the Defense Force, when deployed, is deployed in support of the Ghana Police Force. So yes, bits and pieces of information came within the military intelligence unit which was shared with the Ghana Police Force. So all the information we have picked up in relation to Mr. Khan was shared with the Ghana Police Force during that period of time. Did we receive information that the state could have acted on criminally and lead a charge against Mr. Khan? I don't think we did. We have a lot of information that when processed perhaps could have gotten to that stage. What I do know, and you mentioned it, that the Ghana Defense Force as a state institution played a key role in supporting the police to ensure that Mr. Khan could have eventually been renditioned in Trinidad and charged in the United States. So we did have a state institution, some state institutions that functioned notwithstanding the state of Guyana at that time.
Bess encouraged persons with evidence to come forward, as he says the President David Granger-led administration would provide as much protection to persons who need to come forward and give that evidence. He stated that in some instances, persons could be compelled to provide the evidence. After serving more than 8 years imprisonment for cocaine trafficking in the United States, Khan, who was considered to be the country's most powerful drug trafficker, returned to Ghana on September 21, 2019. In June 2006, Khan was arrested in Paramaribo with 3 of his bodyguards in a sting operation. Surinamese authorities said police netted more than 200 kilograms of cocaine, the biggest cocaine haul in that year in that country. Khan was flown to Trinidad, handed over to immigration authorities, who then turned him into U.S. custody. He was immediately flown to New York, where he was arraigned at the Brooklyn Federal Court on 30th June 2006 on a charge of conspiring to import cocaine. He was then sentenced in October 2009. The People's National Congress Reform had long claimed that Khan was allegedly linked to the state-sponsored death squads that had been allegedly responsible for the killing of 400 mainly Afro-Guyanese. The party had promised to go after Khan for these alleged murders and secure certain convictions. To date, no one has come forward, nor is there any substantial evidence to charge him. At his weekly press conference of October 10, opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo had deemed the actions of the Ghana National Broadcasting Authority, GNBA, misguided, since the institution of fines on broadcast entities is a clear indication that the agency is under political directives, since the accusation is baseless and the charges were laid in an attempt to muzzle free speech.
We had to file a case, the Freedom Radio, against GNBA. So that's another APNU group out there, APNU AFC group, and they're trying to muzzle free speech. So guess what? We were fined $75,000 for calling Granger a charlatan. You can call him a dictator, but not a charlatan. You get fined $75,000.
The GNBA has sanctioned 2 separate entities for what it deemed breaches to the country's Broadcasting Act. These entities are Freedom Radio and MTV. The opposition leader at that juncture said the GNBA is merely policing the entities at its behest of the government.
They find Freedom Radio. They want to police what we say on Freedom Radio. We can't talk about elections being rigged when we realize what the game was at the G-Cup. Their game was at a G-Cup. They were planning to rig the elections.
However, at the press conference hosted by the Broadcasting Authority on Thursday, chairman of the GNBA, Leslie Sobers, said that is not the case.
This authority has no political agenda and is not being used by the present government as an agent to quell freedom of expression or simply make life difficult for any broadcaster.
Sobers stressed that the authority mandates it's gleaned on the Broadcasting Act of 2011, which was piloted through Parliament and assented to by former President Jagdeo himself. The GNBA said the authority did not sanction the aforementioned agencies for their calling of the president a charlatan.
I am saying this without fear of contradiction, that the GNBA did not sanction Freedom Radio or MTV for airing any comment against His Excellency that had to do with calling the president a charlatan. This contention by the leader of the opposition can only be a reaction of his own conscience and knowledge that it is defamatory of one's reputation to publish disparaging comments that cannot be justified.
Sobers said the authority takes very seriously the clause in the act that stipulates the authority must maintain the order within the confines of broadcasting, such as the fostering of national unity and a harmonious society, which in the eyes of the GNBA, these entities are in blatant breach of. He said there are numerous acts of vulgarity that were recorded during the PPP's reign and cited a few examples, and noted that it is for this reason the 2 broadcasting outfits were sanctioned.
Where is the freedom of expression allowed? Can only some enjoy it and others to be penalized if they do the same thing? Should Freedom Radio not be called in if they say things on the air that are defamatory or unsubstantiated? Can Mr. Ed Lane of MTV get up on the television and accuse all ministers of this government to be taking bribes on a daily basis and never utter a single shred of evidence to support that contention? And that's why we called it MTV, not anything to do with calling the president a charlatan?
The chairman said the two entities have had 53 infractions since the beginning of 2019. Sobers concluded that the authority has never been in the business of violating the citizens' constitutional right to freedom of expression, but stated that the rights does not ignore or vitiate any other act in the Constitution, such as the Defamation Act, which the authority has not been an enforcer of. 4 persons have been taken into police custody following the discovery of an unlicensed gun with 6 live matching rounds. Ranks of a mobile patrol acting on information received intercepted a motor car on Princess Street, Georgetown at around 22 hours 30 yesterday. They found concealed in the vehicle an unlicensed .380 pistol with 6 live matching rounds. The suspects have all been detained and are assisting with investigations. Remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest news in Guyana, the Caribbean, and around the world. Coming up on the other side of the break, more news with Shakima Day.
Globespan GT is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Here are some exciting news from Globespan GT. Fares have dropped for next year, starting January 20 to August. American Airlines has cheap fares on non-stop flights to New York. Flights are as low as $306 one way and $540 round trip, all tax included. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American Airlines non-stop flights to New York. Globespan has also cheap fares to Miami, Toronto, Canada, and the Caribbean. Call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701, or in Rose Hall call 337-4298, and New Amsterdam at 333-6230. That call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701,
or in Rose Hall, call 337-4287.
And in New Amsterdam at 333-6230.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. We'll continue tonight's news by telling you during an interview with Tullows head of communications, George Kasnoff, on Thursday, it was announced that the oil company is expected to spend approximately $80 million on drilling wells in Guyana's offshore basin for 2019. Tullow Oil initially began its search for oil in the Oranduke block in June 2019 and struck a substantial amount of oil-bearing rocks 2 months later. The Jethro 1 well was drilled on August 12 and 1 month later, the Joe well was drilled. Kasnoff relayed that drilling will begin soon in the Kapara well in the Kanuku license. It was also disclosed that the company has not yet outlined a budget for their operations in 2020. Kasnoff concluded that the next year's program would be materially defined by what happens and what does not happen with the Kapara well. When we think about next year, we need to think about the wells we have drilled on the Oranduke license and as well as the Kanuku license. Tullow first announced their initial oil find on August 12, 2019 at their Jethro 1 well in the Oranduke block with an estimated 100 million barrels of recoverable resources. The UK-based oil company then announced their second discovery on the Monday, September 16, opening what the Director of Energy, Dr. Mark Bino, deemed as an upper tertiary oil play in the Guyana Basin. Meanwhile, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce on Thursday launched its Improving Quality Standards of Agro-Processors through training aimed at enhancing the capacity of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in Guyana. More in this report.
According to Senior Vice President of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, Timothy Tucker, The training aims to bring local businesses in Guyana to the standards required for them to compete on the international market.
The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, which you all would have known, is the only BSO in Guyana that is constitutionally mandated by an act of parliament to represent the private sector. And part of its mandated, what is mandated by us is the development of business, improvement of standards, and fostering businesses to the point that we are competitive in and outside of Guyana. The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce would have, in the last 3 years, been a staunch advocate of local content. And this project speaks to the magnitude of local content. It's developing local agro-processors and lifting them to the standards, international standards.
The VP believes that they will be pushing local agro-processors to achieve HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point certification, and GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices certification.
We're not certifying them, I believe, but we are carrying them right up to that standard. The Chamber, within the last month, I should say, you would have known that we had our Business Development Forum 2019, where we were focused on finance and marketing. Now, this new project is focused on standards in the manufacturing of agricultural products. So we are now lifting that standard.
The project aims to enhance the managerial, technical, and operational capacity of micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Guyana, thereby contributing to their increased productivity, profitability, and competitiveness. The GCCI is inviting all micro, small, and medium-sized agro-processors to participate in the project, supported by the Caribbean Development Bank and the Guyana Bureau of Standards. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
In other news, retired Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force, Rear Admiral Gary Best, who is now an executive member of the People's National Congress Reform, says his successor, Brigadier Mark Phillips, who has joined the opposition PPPC, is no contest to President Brigadier David Granger and his coalition government.
Brigadier Phillips, we were in the same camp in Ghana, if that's what you meant. But I think in the Ghana Defense Force, we like to say that the Ghana Defense Force we consider the institution where we all belong to. That was our pride and joy, our party. So we all function as military officers, guided by the Commander-in-Chief in the execution of our duties. In accent, yes, we're in the same camp. But if you were asking me to give a personal view, not a party view on if the Brigadier is up against the Commander-in-Chief, I would say it's no contest. It's a no contest. The leader.
Why?
Sorry?
Why is it a no contest?
Because the credentials of the David Granger-led coalition government, honest leadership, integrity, development, more jobs, entrepreneurship, international recognition, national recognition, all those, when you take off the scorecard, I don't see it being a serious competition between President David Arthur Granger, who was a brigadier retired, and the gentleman you mentioned, who was a colleague of mine, Brigadier General Mark Phillips.
He made this remark at a press conference held earlier today at PNCR's Congress Place, Sophia. In 2013, Best handed over command of the GDF to Phillips, who retired in 2016. While the PPP has not named Phillips as its prime ministerial candidate, it is widely speculated that he is likely to get it. Only recently, he appeared on a show alongside PPPC presidential candidate Irfan Ali. Opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo said at his press conference yesterday that the retired Brigadier Phillips is a man of integrity, and that was one of the attributes that impressed the PPPP. The Department of Education earlier today rewarded close to 100 students and teachers for their outstanding performance in the education sector, with the activity being spearheaded by District Education Officer Sherwin Blackman. Awards were given to the top performers at this year's National Grade 6 assessment including Dave Chowty of Graham's Hall Primary School, the overall top male performer. Other awardees include Angel Devrel, Cleanna Brummel, and Aquil Elcock. Winford Garden Primary School copped the award for the NGSA Top Performing School in Mathematics, English, Science and Social Studies, while the Most Improved School Award went to St. Sidwell's Primary. Chief Education Officer Dr. Marcel Hudson encouraged the students to continue to strive for academic excellence and applauded teachers for their continued effort to improve and develop students' academic performance. Gavin Joseph of the Sophia Special School took the prize for Outstanding SCCP Student. The Secondary Competency Certificate Program seeks to improve students' attendance, reduce school dropouts, boost equity, and enhance quality and relevance in the area of technical and vocational education at the grade 9 and grade 10 levels. Additionally, awards were distributed for special recognition for CSEC and CAPE performance, along with top performers in both examinations. And Senior Labour Minister Amna Ali has lifted the cease order issued to Australian-owned gold mining company Troy Resources following the unfortunate mining pit accident that claimed the life of geologist Brian Taylor on October 8. In the minister's letter, it stated, and I quote, "I, Amna Ali, Minister of Social Protection, hereby wishes to notify you that the letter dated October 10, 2019, under the hand of the Honorable Keith Scott, Minister within the Ministry of Social Protection, is hereby rescinded." End quote. This move comes after several employees of the company expressed their anger at how the situation was handled. The company had issued dismissal letters to a section of their staff after receiving the cease order from Minister Keith Scott, but this letter made no indication about the future of the workers. President of the Guyana Trade Union, Lincoln Lewis, had conveyed his grave concerns over the reinstatement of the workers who were laid off. He told Globespan 24x7 News that the letter the workers received contained no details about them receiving benefits. According to Lewis, the union is paying close attention to what happens next, as the letter also did not detail whether or not the laid-off workers will be back on the job when operations resume.
They have not said whether they are going to reinstate everybody or anything of the sort. The letters them that they give to people is just bald, saying that you've been laid off. And it is clearly laid off because the minister has given some instructions. That's all they said.
We will now take a short commercial break. Do stay tuned for regional, international, and diaspora news with Whitney Prasad at our New York studio. Coming up after the break, Trinidad police issues wanted bulletin for murder accused, and Afghan mosque bombing kills 62 Islamic believers.
To keep up with breaking news in Guyana, the rest of the Caribbean, and on the international scene, like, follow, and subscribe to Globespan 24x7's Facebook and YouTube news page. Join the conversation, get live news on the go, and news and details right here on Globespan 24x7 News.
Travelspan is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Travelspan has some cheap fares to Guyana on American Airlines flights. Fly from January for $234 one-way and $512 round-trip. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American non-stop flights from JFK to Guyana. That's non-stop flights from JFK to Guyana starting as low as $234 one-way and $512 round-trip. And also has the cheapest fares for Christmas that starts as low as $799 round-trip. Travelspan celebrating 25 years in business with over 10 offices to serve you. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Or book online at travelspan.com. Book early and save.
Good evening and thanks for staying with us. Thank you, Shakima. Scores of delegates from the just concluded Caribbean Water and Wastewater Conference from Guyana Antigua, Barbados, and other Caribbean islands have been grounded in St. Kitts for some 9 hours and continuing up to press time today, and no clear information has been given to angry customers for the delay in their flights. Irate customers got even more frustrated due to the alleged lack of professionalism meted out to them by customer service team attached to Liat Regional Airways underground at the Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport. Apart from the drawn-out wait time, some of the participants who attended the conference also expressed disappointment after finding out that their baggage had been vandalized at the Sugar Bay Resort where they stayed. It is not clear whether any type of compensation was given to those who were affected by this. Efforts to contact customer service toll-free number as well as the airline's public relations department for clarification or comments on the issue proved futile, but a source close to the issue said after angry passengers voiced their criticisms, the airline agreed to provide food and hotel accommodation until the matter is sorted out. Police are still trying to find the 5 juvenile escapees in Trinidad and Tobago who have all been charged with murder. The suspects escaped from the prison on October 3, 2019. A reward of $50,000 is being offered by the Crime Stoppers for the recapture of the escapees, and members of the public are being asked to circulate their photos and contact the nearest police station if they see them or have any information that will lead to the recapture. Mexico's president has defended freeing drug kingpin El Chapo's son soon after his arrest. According to reports, when Guzman Lopez was seized at a house on a judge's warrant in the city, cartel gunmen fought street battles with security forces. At least 8 people were reportedly killed and 21 wounded, with vehicles left burning in the streets. The president said that the decision to cancel the arrest had saved lives. Senior security officials had decided on his release, and the president said at a news conference, he said, quote, "The capture of a criminal is not worth more than people's lives," end quote. President Donald Trump has said the European nations are now willing to take the responsibility for detained Islamic State fighters who are from their countries. He said this means new progress against Islamic State extremists in Syria. Yesterday, in a tweet, the president stated that a U.S. ceasefire deal with Turkey marked a great day for civilization, though the deal's effect was largely to mitigate a foreign policy crisis, widely assumed to be Trump's own doing. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said U.S. troops are continuing their withdrawal from northern Syria and will not participate in enforcing or monitoring the ceasefire that Vice President Mike Pence had announced. Officials have said a number of ISIS fighters, likely just over 100, have escaped custody since Turkey launched its invasion last week. And as Globespan 24x7 News continues to follow Canada's election, polls show Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau could lose to his Conservative Party rival in national elections on Monday, or fail to win a majority of seats in Parliament and have to rely on the opposition party to remain in power. Not since 1935 has a first-term Canadian Prime Minister with a parliamentary majority lose a bid for re-election. A combination of scandal and high expectations has damaged his prospects. Last month, photos of Trudeau in blackface when he was younger surfaced, casting doubt on his judgment. The 47-year-old was tarnished by a scandal that erupted earlier this year when his former Attorney General said he pressured her to halt the prosecution of a Quebec company. Trudeau has said he was standing up for jobs. Trudeau's appointment, Andrew Scheer, who is a career politician, calls Trudeau insincere based on his inability to recall how many times he has worn blackface. Scheer is promising to scrap the national carbon tax and cut government spending, including foreign aid, by 25%. But he too has been criticized for embellishing his resume and for holding dual U.S.-Canadian citizenship. According to a BBC report, Scotland's highest civil court recently dismissed a legal bid to stop the United Kingdom's government from passing its proposed EU withdrawal agreement. The report said anti-Brexit campaigners had argued the deal contravened legislation preventing Northern Ireland from forming part of a separate customs territory. However, Lord Pentland ruled the application was misconceived and unjustified. Campaigner Joe Maham QC said the case was now unlikely to proceed further. In his written opinion, the judge described the petition of very doubtful competency and concluded the petitioner had at best a weak case. Mr. Maham had lodged a petition on Thursday in an attempt to stop Parliament from passing the EU withdrawal agreement. Government lawyers defended the deal and claimed the legal action was a direct and manifest interference with the Parliament. Turning our attention to what's happening in Afghanistan, at least 62 people have been killed and dozens injured by a bomb during Friday prayers at a mosque in Afghanistan. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack. According to eyewitnesses, the force of the bomb blast destroyed the building's roof. The blast came the day after the UN said the number of civilian deaths in the war-torn country had reached an unprecedented level. According to the United Nations, 1,174 civilians were killed between July and September, the deadliest quarter since the UN records began a decade ago. Meanwhile, in Africa, heavy rains has caused serious flooding in several countries on the continent, with northern Ghana being amongst the worst hit. Reports are that 28 people have died in recent days and hundreds of homes have been destroyed. Benin, Chad, the far north of Cameroon, and South Sudan are also badly affected by floods. At least 11 people have died in eastern Tanzania, according to the BBC weather person. A weather pattern featuring enhanced storms has stayed over Africa for an unusually long period. He said this is possibly due to the relatively high water temperature in the Indian Ocean, creating unusual air currents that are stopping the storms from moving away from the African continent. Lebanon's prime minister has given his partners in government a 72-hour ultimatum to come up with a persuading solution for the country's rapidly worsening economic crisis amid nationwide protests facing the ruling political class. Protesters started earlier this week when government announced a new post tax, including a $6 monthly fee for using WhatsApp voice calls. The statement by government fueled angry citizens against leaders, including the president and prime minister, who people blamed decades of corruption and mismanagement. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the prime minister's office during his address to the nation on Friday, blaming politicians in his national unity government for blocking his reform agenda at every turn. And finally, the major U.S. stock indexes are slipping after data which suggests China expanded at its slowest pace for 30 years. However, the markets are also being sustained by some upbeat earnings data. Shares in soft drink giant Coca-Cola rose more than 1.7% after it beat analyst expectations for quarterly sales. Credit card issuer American Express, an oil field service provider, also reported better than expected profits. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slid 0.14% to 26.989 points. The S&P 50 was down 0.01% at 2,998 points, and the Nasdaq fell 0.1% to 8,148 points. That's all for news in the region and around the world. I'm Whitney Prasad reporting from New York for Globespan 24x7 News. Let's join Kumar Doshi for Tech Beat right here on Globespan 24x7 in our studio in India.
Thank you, Whitney. Namaste, salam, and good day to everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Tech Beat on Globespan 24x7. Let's talk about cloud storage today. Cloud storage is a cloud computing model that stores data on the internet through a cloud computing provider who manages and operates data storage as a service. It is delivered on demand with just-in-time capacity and costs and eliminates buying and managing your own data storage infrastructure. This gives you the agility, global scale, and durability with anytime, anywhere data access. Cloud storage is purchased from a third-party cloud vendor like Google Drive, iCloud from Apple, OneDrive from Microsoft, and Amazon Cloud Services, who own and operate data storage capacity and delivers it over the internet in a pay-as-you-go model. These cloud storage vendors manage capacity, security, and durability to make the data accessible to applications all over the world. There are a few types of cloud storages like private cloud, where it's tailored to accommodate and handle data requests from small home-based companies or large companies. Private cloud, where you won't need to be concerned about maintenance or data security since all data is externalized. Public clouds are easy to access and maintain than private clouds. And also mobile cloud, which allows users to store and manage files, photos, music, and videos from their mobile devices. There are benefits of using cloud storage. With cloud storage, there is no hardware to purchase to store your data like external hard drives, flash drives, etc. The amount of convenience and peace of mind offered by cloud storage system is amazing. Even if you store data on transportable devices like external hard drives or flash drives, some kind of manual intervention and physical handling is required. The data that is stored in the cloud is backed up online and it can be accessed from anywhere. If you commit any change to one or more files, the cloud will automatically sync the changes across all affiliated devices. But there is some drawback of cloud storage. Since cloud-based storage solutions depends on the internet upload and download speeds, you would need a fast internet connection. Also, there are still many areas in the world where you cannot get decent internet access. Unlike cloud storage and backup is beneficial for all types of business. Cloud storage is a great platform that does not require any huge investment, and it can be actively used for connecting and collaborating with clients and employees. However, there are some drawbacks which might be overcome in the near future. That wraps up for the Tech Beat for today. I'm Kumar Doshi bringing you tech news from India. Back to the studio in Guyana for more news to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Kumar. We'll now take a look at our bridge reports. And we'll now shift our attention to what's happening in the world of sport with Kingsley Bryan.
Thanks, Samuel. Now here's a look at today's sportscast. The West Berbice Chamber of Industry and Commerce will be hosting a one-day Chamber Cup 10-10 cricket competition and fun day this Sunday, October 20 at the Cotton Tree Die Hard Ground, West Berbice. The tournament will be contested among 6 teams, namely the Cotton Tree Die Hard, the Blairmont Cricket Club, Young Warriors Cricket Club, the Edward Cricket Club, Achievers Cricket Club, and the Police Sports Club. Trophies, cash incentives, and other prizes will be presented to the top teams and outstanding individual players. First ball is expected to be bowled at 9 hours. Admission is free and persons will be given special gate prizes, while children will be receiving lots of goodies. The WBCIC has noted that it is delighted to be a part of this initiative since it represents investment in youths and the future. The Chamber welcomes the undertaking and urges residents to come out and support the activity. And we'll tell you that the Georgetown Cricket Club were in brilliant form as the 2019 GTT National Indoor Hockey Championship continued at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall. In the women's first division, the GBTI GCC Spartans defeated the defending champions, the Woodpecker Hikers, 4-0, with all 4 goals coming from the skilled Abu Saidi Cadogan. The Spartans outplayed the Hikers, who had to compete without their star player, Nicole Eastman. In the subsequent Women's First Division clash, GBTI GCC Tigers, the most successful women's side in the tournament's history, overpowered their club's B-side, the GBTI GCC Spice, with a 7-0 defeat. In the lone veterans match of the night, Kevin Spencer showed his dominance in the Bounty GCC Vintage side that ran over Antonia's Hickers 5-2. Spencer scored 4 of the 5 goals, while the Damon Woodruff added the 5th. Devin Monroe and Maria Monroe added 1 each for the Hickers. Other results of the night saw the Hikers Cadets beating YMCA Old Fort Hardball 4-2, while Bounty GCC beat Saints Sensations 3-1. Both matches were featured in the men's 2nd division. And we'll tell you now that the 2nd edition of the Gayor Tradewind Tankers Schools Under 18 football tournament was on Thursday launched at the Ministry of Education ground. Present at the launch was Petro Organization Co-Director Troy Mendonca, who stated that the 2019 edition of the tournament will commence on October 27. Mendonca also stated that the selection process of teams for the tournament was based on the Milo Schools football tournament, as well as several other criteria. The 2019 edition will encompass Annandale Secondary, St. Stanislaus College, St. John's College, President's College, the Berbice High School, Cummins Lodge Secondary, Marian Academy, Lodge Secondary, Queen's College, and the Charlestown Secondary School. Absent from this year's lineups are the Linden Multi team, who according to Petroco Director Troy Mendonca have budgetary constraints. The winners of the tournament along with runners-up will qualify for the end-of-year Goodwill Tournament to face one Trinidadian team, a hinterland team, and an all-star team. The winners will also receive $200,000 towards a project for their school, while second place will receive $100,000, third place $50,000, and fourth place $25,000. The tournament will be played on Sundays and Mondays and will culminate on December 8. And internationally, the Spanish Football Federation, the RFEF, has postponed El Clasico between Barcelona and Real Madrid later this month due to the ongoing Catalan protests. The lengthy jail sentences handed to pro-independence politicians earlier this week sparked furious protests across the region, which continued into a 4th day on Thursday. El Clasico is one of the most highly anticipated fixtures on the football calendar, with the bitter rivalry drawing in millions of viewers worldwide. Real Madrid and Barcelona have been given until October 21 to rearrange the fixture. Should they fail to do so, the RFEF will decide on a new date. Both clubs have proposed that the rescheduled fixture takes place on December 18. And that's it for our sports news for today. Join us on Monday as we continue to bring you action within the sporting arena. Back to you, Samuel.
Thanks, Kingsley. That has brought us to the end of today's news. Before you go, here's a recap of our major headlines. The Citizenship Initiative vows not to coalesce with major parties. Over 95 students and educators rewarded for excellence in education. Former Army Chief says GDF and PNCR did not get solid information on Roger Can. Tullow to put US $80 million towards its offshore drilling operation. And GCCI launches agro-processing improvement training targeting SMEs. Thanks for watching Globespan 24/7 News. On behalf of myself, Samuel Suknanan, the news and technical team, until next time, do have a pleasant rest of the evening. Goodbye for now.